of people have time to join us and to chime in, and we're getting people to ask all kinds of questions, mainly about severe weather preparedness.
Yeah, because their entire special is going to be about 30-minute special. We've been really excited about it. We got Val and Amy Castor here. So we do this Facebook Live thing every year whenever we have the special. It was really exciting to have y'all come in from Stillwater.
It's exciting to be here.
Yeah, we're excited.
It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of information jam-packed into this special. So if you guys have questions, we've got our laptops up here that we're watching so we can see your questions and answer anything you've got going on, or,
Come up over here.
you know, Cassie's going to pull it up. Oh, there you go.
Gotta refresh my page.
That's smart.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the spring forecast because spring officially begins.
Wednesday.
Wednesday is officially the beginning of spring. And of course, our severe weather season kicking off already in portions of the country. Haven't had anything crazy here just yet.
You know, I was looking at the long range on the way, earlier today and on the way down here, but the models keep going back and forth on it, but it does look like something's going to try to happen next week.
Right.
I don't know what you're thinking about.
Yeah, wave coming through next week. We've got this up this weekend. It doesn't look too crazy.
Right.
Coming up this weekend. So many people have specific questions about the weekend when you have storm chances. I've had so many brides message me, like, oh, it's an outdoor wedding. So we're trying to keep a close eye on that too. But as far as just spring in general, it looks to be more active. And of course, David's going to talk about that in the special.
And we are now on Facebook Live, so
There it
we're
is.
in the chat, and we can see everyone. A lot of people are saying hello.
Hi, and Eric. Good morning. I say good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is 6:45. All right. What questions do you guys have? Does everyone know their safe spot? We always go over that during our special because it's one of those things that if you're prepared, you have no reason to be scared. So know exactly where you will go. We'll detail that. We're going to give some information on shelters, different things like that throughout the special too.
When does the special air? Justin is asking. It actually airs at 7 o'clock, so we've got less than 15 minutes to go. And during that time, we're still going to be on the chat, so you can continue to ask your questions. But we're going to pop up here on Facebook Live. You'll actually be able to see us during the breaks. But while the show is actually on air, it will actually be running live on Facebook and on our News 9 app as well.
All right, I'm trying to read these. It goes so fast. Stop.
It does go fast.
I saw a longer one.
Yeah. Yeah, what is it for trackers? What are your thoughts now if there are so many trackers on the road? Do you fear for your safety? Kind of what precautions do you take?
You know, I can tell you this, that lately in the last, 5 or so years, every year it seems like there gets to be more and more chasers, and especially if there's one good storm or one very active storm. We've seen as many as 300 cars on one storm, so much so that sometimes we just take dirt roads to get around them all, because they clog up the roads. But, it can get dangerous. I'm not going to say people can't chase because, it's obviously a free world. They can do what they want. But just be careful if you're chasing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you've had some close calls here and there, I'm sure, that you could list out. But, they've been doing it for a long time.
We've been run over. That's one of the questions. I'll just go ahead and people always ask about, have you ever been hit by a tornado? And, there's been 4, is that what that one was?
No. I was pointing out some other questions.
4 or 5 times we've had small tornadoes just come right over us. One time we were pushed into the ditch. Another time we had a telephone pole fall right in front of us. Another time we had a round hay bale go flying across the road right in front of us. And it ran over a barbed wire fence and went across the road and ran over another fence and just kept right on going. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh.
But they were small. Luckily, they were small tornadoes. And the big tornadoes, we kind of try to stay a little bit further back from those things because we don't want to take a chance on those.
Sure. And they have erratic movement. You never know exactly which direction it's going to go, but
Exactly.
they keep a close eye. They're always being very, very safe. What was the question, Cassie?
Someone was asking, we get this question a lot.
Yeah.
If you don't have a storm shelter, where do you go? And there's all kinds of places you go. If you're talking about just in your home, as long as it's not a mobile home, you would go to the centermost part of your house that does not have any windows. For a lot of people, that's typically a closet, or it could be the bathroom, and you would just want to surround yourself with as much cushion in between you and the outside as possible. So we're talking about, we do a lot of presentations at schools, and we tell kids to wear a helmet and have some of this stuff kind of in a box somewhere that you can grab pretty quickly say if you were to run into this situation and you don't have a storm shelter or a basement to go into. Of course, a lot of people don't have that in Oklahoma, so you want to wear a helmet. You want to make sure that you're just covered up. All your body's just covered up as much as you possibly can and put as much space between you and the outside as possible.
Great info. We'll talk about that still more in depth in the special as well.
Right.
I just lost the name of the person that said it because it went by too fast, but it said, "Amy, you must have nerves of steel." Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've strengthened
said
my
that.
nerves over the years. Yeah, yeah. You know, from the beginning, I remember just being terrified. But as the years go by, you just learn what your limitations are, and I learned to trust Val and his judgment. And you know, over the years, I think we've just learned to be a good team and trust one another. And you know,
How many years has it been now?
it's been 20 years for
20.
me,
Yeah.
and for Val, it's been I don't
Almost
know,
30 for
almost
Ken
30
Wise.
years. Yeah.
It's awesome. It's so cool. We learn stuff from them every time we're around them, so we love having them. Okay, tonight
Oh,
at
someone's
7.
saying they live in an apartment, so where should they go?
So as long as you can get down to the lowest level of the apartment, that's always best. We always say you can't be on the second or third story or however many stories you've got in your apartment. Make friends with your neighbor. Go downstairs and just say, hey, if there's a tornado, if something crazy happens, is this a safe place to go? Some apartments do have safety precautions and they've got a kind of a picked out place for folks, but that's generally what we tell you. You just gotta have that plan ahead of time. So when the sirens sound, which is never the only way that you want to get your warning, but once we're telling you this is your area, this county, this street, this neighborhood, this apartment complex, take shelter, you know where to go already, and you're not thinking of those things after the fact.
Lacey, a lot of mobile home parks have shelters, community shelters there. I'm a bus captain at our church, and we go a lot of the mobile home parks around Stillwater, and all of them there that we go to have community shelters. They're really big,
Sure.
and you can get a lot of people in there. So the thing about it is know where that is. I mean, it's never too early to learn where to go.
Right.
Because in the spur of the moment, when an action gets really heavy, you know, you want to make sure you just already know where that is and be there before it hits.
And make sure the kiddos know exactly where to go in case the parents aren't home, so they're not petrified and they're frantic and don't know what's going on. Have a plan, practice that plan, and take your pets, because statistics, my favorite word, have shown that if you don't have a plan with your pets, you'll actually slow you down the day of when the time comes, because you start thinking, oh my gosh, what about the dogs? What about the cats, the guinea pigs? You know, what are we going to do? So think about all that ahead of time. Did you come up with another one, Cass?
People were asking if they think, if what we think about the tornado season coming up, is it going to be a bad year? And David is actually going to explain that in the special itself. He's going to tell you about what he expects for the spring. You guys have any opinions on that?
Well, I don't want to give away what
Yeah,
David's
I know.
gonna do.
I know.
We
And
actually strongly disagreed. I'm just kidding.
last year was a fairly quiet year for us.
Really quiet.
Yeah, so we can only assume that
Yeah.
we are probably going to see a little bit more than we did last year.
Yeah, and he goes into the details of
Yes.
why. There's a lot of reasons why, a lot of factors that come into play. We should address the fact that David Payne is not here. It's spring break.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Our producer just said in my ear that someone is watching from Ireland.
Oh, hello.
Awesome. Ireland.
Waiting to see what's ahead. A lot of folks are commenting that have moved here from out of state. So transplants to Oklahoma, welcome. After one spring, you'll be seasoned. You'll know exactly what we're talking about. It doesn't take much. How do you determine where the spotters go? Or can they just stay near their town? That's a good question. So you guys want to talk about kind of the plan throughout the day? If you guys are in constant conversation with David and the whole team, and it's kind of an effort of pinpointing where the storms are going to fire later in the day, because if you wait, and you're waiting on the dry line to fire out in western Oklahoma, it takes a while to get there.
literally are chasing at that point.
Yeah.
You're behind if you
Right.
wait that long.
Exactly.
That's old school storm chasing. That's what we call it.
Well, so the way we do it is generally we're out the door by noon, and the goal is to get to where we think storms are going to go up and be there waiting on storms to go up, so that we can watch them as they go up and build and already be on it. So that's the plan. The plan don't always work,
Right.
like it should, but I can tell you, David usually on the phone with me in the mornings saying, here's where I want you, we're going to put other people here and there, and they generally try to station people in strategic spots.
Right.
So basically our coverage area is all of central and western Oklahoma, And sometimes we even go a little bit into the other states if there's something coming
Sure.
that will threaten, our border counties out there.
Yeah, let them know what's coming into Oklahoma. And so it's conversation kind of the week up until the event, even kind of daily. David's in contact with our entire team of trackers. The question was kind of specific of, do you get to stay close to your hometown, not have to go very far? It's nice whenever it's a winter event and you get to just go out in your driveway and you can see what's going on, but typically they're
a
traveling
lot of miles.
a lot of miles.
Typically we'll get on Highway 51 and head west,
Right.
or Highway 35 and head south, and I-40 and head west, but it's generally west is where we start.
And we're so lucky. We're so blessed to have such a large team of storm trackers
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
already across the state, so we can
yeah.
call them depending on where the target is for the day. And
I got to tell you that
along.
our storm trackers, all of them, I'd hate to mention names right now because there's, I'm going to miss somebody,
Right.
but they're a great team, and we work really well as a team. I feel privileged to work with such good people.
And it's really cool too because we get to communicate with all of the storm trackers here in the pod and back in the weather center. We have actually a few areas where we can actually communicate with them while they're out on the road, and the storm trackers can actually listen to each other and communicate with each other as well during that same time.
That helps a lot, Cassie,
Yeah.
when we're out, because we are able to see or hear what they're seeing in person, and we can make a lot of decisions based on what they're seeing. You know, if a storm hasn't developed in our area yet, but they're seeing signs that it's going to be strong, then it gives us a lot of clues as to what we should do.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll just have one or two strong storms, and you might have one set of storm trackers following that storm, and another is now kind of looking for the damage. So some people are holding back while some are just going to continue to chase and kind of let everyone know what's going on.
And sometimes if it's a fast-moving storm, we'll kind of leapfrog it, and we'll have someone positioned, upstream, ready to take it if it gets away from us, and just kind of follow us.
we have a
down.
50-mile-an-hour moving
We have a
storms.
name for that, don't we?
Leapfrogging?
It's called the handoff.
A handoff.
Handoff. They do say that. We hear that a lot on the Gettner. All right, we're handing it off to you, Hank. And they kind of, strategically get around it. Someone asked, in a typical chase season, do you keep track of your miles, how many miles you would drive in a severe season?
I do, as a matter of fact. And I would say we probably drive around 50,000 miles a year. That's a lot.
That's a whole lot.
And that's hard miles.
And
too.
that's not driving up and down the plains. They aren't chasing in North Dakota and driving back to Oklahoma. That's all right here in the surrounding
Right.
states. Let's see, I had another one, but I forgot it. A lot of folks are asking if it was going to be a hot summer. Yet to be determined. I will say for me, it'll be a hot summer.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's going to be interesting. Lacey, obviously pregnant. I always joke around about we're going to have lots of snacks in the weather center, more so than usual.
This is where, during severe weather, you may not see this shot. This is Kathy and I's home.
Yes.
For 12 to 24 hours sometimes.
Well,
so
see, she has to eat first for her, and then eat again for the baby. So
that's right.
And I'm all about that.
It's going to be
I would like to
interesting.
read off a list of our storm trackers.
Do it.
because He was
there
so
you go.
generous to put them all. Okay,
Oh.
Jim Gardner in the air. He's top notch. Nobody is better. We got Hank and Patty Brown, Marty and Debbie Logan,
Debbie Logan.
and Alan Brosey, Bobby Payne, Tom Pastrano, and Rob. Vaughn Castor, Darren Stevens over in the Tulsa area that comes over and helps us out on the big days.
yeah,
But,
we have Earl Fabian. He works
Earl.
with Alan, and Michael Payne that works with Bobby as well.
Right.
And Rob Sackis works with Tom. So.
Right.
Great teams.
Great team. Those guys have been doing this for a long time. Very, very good team.
And sometimes we even bring down, you mentioned Vaughn and Darren. Sometimes there's other storm trackers too that we bring down from our sister station in Tulsa, which is really cool.
Yeah, and the second helicopter
Yes.
too, which can be
On a big
be
day,
a lot
we
going
need it.
on.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what it takes. So we're excited. The special starting here. We're just got the key. We're about a minute away
Yeah.
from our severe weather special. There's so many folks that, by the way, work behind the scenes to put all this together. So
yeah.
we're excited to see it. We love this time of year anyway. So keep asking us questions during the special. We'll continue to answer those. A lot of folks are asking about the app, saying they love the app. That's another great way to get information during severe weather. We'll be streaming the special on the app this evening as well.
Yeah.
So that's a great resource and a great tool.
And by the way, we do have a new News 9 weather app. So if you haven't gotten that yet, go ahead and download that. It's really cool. There's a lot of new features on that. You can definitely look at our radar. You can also make sure that it's kind of on your hometown so you get specific alerts for your hometown. And you can see our weather forecast videos. It's really cool if you haven't gotten the new app yet.
All right, we are about to kick off the special Ask Us Questions. We'll be right here answering your questions coming up in the next commercial break.
I can't wait.
Gonna be good. We see your truck, don't we?
Yeah, I think so.
We see Val and Amy's new chase truck. That's coming up, so we're pretty pumped.
This is Duramax.
It's Duramax.
It is our top priority to protect all of Oklahoma.
We work day and night to keep you safe.
From when the storms start to develop.
Through the very end, we are there.
Add in decades worth of experience.
In the studio, in the air, and in the field.
Along with the best technology, you've got quite the crew keeping you safe this severe weather season.
Ahead of the Storm is presented by VW of Edmond.
Good evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist David Payne. In the past year, we've seen a lot of crazy weather, from fast-forming morning tornadoes to snow and even wildfires. Through it all, keeping your family safe is our #1 priority. Tonight, we want to keep you ahead of the storm this spring. In the next half hour, we'll show you the team that makes it happen, the technology behind the scenes, and my tornado forecast. We'll also take a look back at the deadly May 3rd tornadoes 20 years later. Oklahoma sits in the middle of Tornado Alley, where the threat of tornadoes is typically higher, but scientists say the area could be shifting. Harold Brooks at NOAA co-authored the study, which looked at the number of tornadoes from 1979 to 2017. Using tornado reports and forecasting tools, they found an increase in tornadoes across the South, just east of the plains, and a slight decrease for parts of the southern plains, especially Texas.
That's where more tornadoes happen at night. There's higher population densities, and because of some other demographic factors, we already know that the tornadoes that occur there tend to kill more people than tornadoes that occur in Oklahoma and Kansas and the rest of the plains.
But during that same time frame, Oklahoma saw more violent tornadoes than any other state, which the research doesn't show. Storm tracker Hank Brown grew up fascinated with storms, and for 20 years, he's brought that passion to you, our viewers, during some of Oklahoma's most violent storms.
It's beautiful. Holy moly. We have seen some of nature's phenomenon that very few people in the world, percentage-wise, actually get to see. We saw the May 3rd tornado, and we've been in a couple of small tornadoes.
Zooming on the ground, it's on the ground. I can see it all the way to the ground now.
A lot of guys know exactly how many tornadoes they've seen. I don't know how many tornadoes I've seen. I know that I've went through 4 or 5 chase trucks. I had a partner that he couldn't get away from work, and so it kind of got to where I just kept taking Patty with me more and more.
Stop, don't move. Now I don't want to be at home waiting for it. I want to be out there looking at it.
Whoa, hey, we've got one on the ground. We got one on the ground.
20 years has definitely changed me for sure.
Come to Hank, I got something on I-40.
It was part of a community service, something that God gave me a passion for, that I really enjoyed, but that I could do something for my fellow Oklahomans to be able to provide warning of what was coming. You know, I am getting older, but I plan on chasing the next 20 years.
News 9 storm trackers log more than 200,000 miles a year covering Oklahoma's weather. After about 10 trucks, Val and Amy Castor say they have the biggest and toughest one yet.
Equipment is vital. You got to have the right equipment to do the right job. We do invest a lot in our trucks. We put it through the ringer, or probably more than what it's designed to be put through. We're trying to keep our viewers safe. Longevity is what we're thinking about, something that'll hold up to the abuse that we're going to put it under. It's heavier, it's got larger tires on it, which is better traction.
When we get off on dirt roads like this one that we're on right now, I mean, it's so nice to have a truck that where you're going to get through it and be able to continue on safely.
The diesel motor has plenty of power.
When we have a suspension that's softer and, the video quality is better, I don't feel like we're bouncing all over the place. The anemometer is fantastic.
Now we're going to be able to tell, when there's a squall line bearing down in Oklahoma City, to know whether it has 60-mile-an-hour winds or 90-mile-an-hour winds, and that's pretty important for people's safety.
I do feel like I'm in a monster truck, yes, but it feels very safe.
We put a lot into that truck, and so we're going to try to make this one last.
All of our storm trackers are part of a 2-person team in the field.
But for Hank, Marty, and Val, their partners on the chase are also their partners in life.
We suspect there's some serious wind damage going on right there.
This tornado is still doing damage.
We are about 1 mile from that storm.
Behind the voices of storm trackers Marty Logan, Hank Brown, and Val Castor sit their biggest supporters.
We've loved storm chasing for so long, and it's just a part of our lives.
Riding shotgun, Debbie Logan, Patty Brown, and Amy Castor admit that they help keep their husbands safe while tracking Oklahoma's biggest storms.
You may be surprised.
Yeah, I'll back up. I'm backing up.
You can be his second set of eyes, and so that's just the exciting part about being a partner, is just being there to help him.
But the three also play a vital role in storm chasing.
You know, I'm always giving him radar updates, or I'm giving him roads.
Along with watching the skies, the three also give constant updates on social media and run the video cameras that give viewers an up-close and personal view of the storms.
It just gets better every year. We just have so much new technology to work with, and it's exciting to see what that new gadget's going to be that's going to make what we do even better.
Amy and Patty have more than 20 years of storm chasing experience, while Debbie is just getting started.
I have a lot to learn. I'm anxious to learn and to get to know the ropes and stuff.
When you want to help people, that's just in who you are, and so that's just who I am. I'd love to help people. I love to be there for others, and so storm chasing goes along with that.
The fact that we are contributing to something that's so great, being able to warn people, that keeps us going.
Meteorologist Cassie Hyder, Oklahoma's own News 9.
Coming up, my detailed tornado forecast. But up next, a look back at the May 3rd, 1999 tornadoes. Hear from those who chased it and those who survived the storm.
I'm not gonna lie, I could watch the video of y'all's truck.
I know.
And the chase trucks in general.
We're ready to chase.
Constantly.
We need to put it to use now.
We got a lot of great questions during that. So one of them was from Cindy, and she said every time she hears severe storm, she automatically thinks tornado, starts getting a little bit worried, starts thinking, okay, is this what exactly are you talking about when you say a severe storm? Well, we are severe storms all the time, and not every severe storm produces a tornado. In fact, that's a very rare occurrence. In Oklahoma, it's a little bit more of a high occurrence, but a severe storm, by definition, is a storm that's producing quarter-size hail, so 1-inch hail, it then becomes severe. Also, a severe storm is winds that are produced from that storm are in excess of 58 miles per hour. That's the technical definition. So a severe storm could just be damaging winds, I don't want to say just, but could just be damaging hail with no rotation whatsoever. So it goes up from there, but that's a severe storm by definition. Not all severe storms produce tornadoes.
Right. And a lot of times with a severe storm, and you get outflow winds from that can be as damaging as a small tornado.
Yeah,
so whenever you hear a severe warning and David comes on and says, this is a severe thunderstorm warning for your area, heed the warning, because damage can, especially if you're in something like a mobile home,
exactly,
and stuff like that. And lightning is very dangerous.
Well, and sometimes a severe storm, we will say it's severe if it's producing pea-size hail. Sometimes storms will produce copious amounts of pea-size hail that cover the roadway. You start getting accidents. That storm's now severe, even though the hail size doesn't meet that criteria. So it really just depends on the situation going on and where it's hitting too.
And we now have less than 30 seconds until we get back into the special, but just a quick question. People ask us all the time, are Bobby Payne and David Payne related? And they are not related. They are not related.
David's son.
Yeah.
He's not here, we can say that. No, they're not related.
So we've got another 10 seconds. And
yeah, we'll go through these. We'll answer more of them coming up in the next break.
Good questions.
Yeah, keep them coming.
Throwing lots of debris. It's very intense at the surface. Very intense.
Real.
May 3rd will mark the 20th anniversary of the largest, most destructive tornado outbreak in Oklahoma history. We had the first F5 tornado in the Oklahoma City metro area.
40 people died from 72 tornadoes that destroyed more than 3,300 homes. I was working in the Weather Center that day, and along with me and many trackers, including David and survivors, it was a day we'll never forget.
It was like somebody opened the gates of hell.
It's been 20 years since Stuart Ernest stood under the overpass at Shields and I-35 and more.
It's making my heart beat fast.
The one he took shelter under is long gone, but the new one stands as a reminder to what he experienced here.
That's the most violent thing I've ever endured.
Stewart was among a dozen people on the road that day that huddled under the overpass as the eye of the F5 monster passed overhead.
Got under the bridge, there was a place for me to get. I got up on the ledge and laid down. We didn't have anything to hang on to.
Somehow, Stewart survived with only a few cuts and bruises. As for the strangers with him under the bridge, all but one woman made it out alive.
I don't understand why God let me stay. She had every reason to live. 2 beautiful kids, a husband that loved her. It was sad. I felt guilty.
Among all the heartbreak and devastation, many will remember this tiny miracle. A Grady County deputy found a baby girl face down in the mud with only a few minor injuries. In Oklahoma City, Jed Castles, Oklahoma's own News 9.
Tornado on the ground.
All the ingredients were definitely there for tornadoes. Storm that became that storm developed over Lawton. If it makes the turn at Chickasha, then the bullseye is central Oklahoma. It's Norman, it's Moore, it's Oklahoma City.
It looks like it's moving more easterly now.
When it set back down for the 3rd or 4th time now, it was the widest it had been. It was the most violent that it had been all day. It was debris falling out of the sky. As I pull up, it was kind of the first time in the metro where I actually was close to a neighborhood. And it was gone. There was nothing left.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I was just so overwhelmed. You're not human if it didn't change you. And I think it changed all of us.
Oh, this thing is large.
We did not expect that to be a big day from the start.
We ended up seeing 12 tornadoes.
Global multiple vortex tornado.
At that time, I couldn't see the tornado because what I was seeing was the whole sky on the ground.
We knew that the storm was cycling.
It's leveled a house, a couple houses over here.
A tornado developed right there in front of us.
Tornado on the ground. This looks like starting to increase in size.
It was marching right through Oklahoma City and Midwest City and Del City.
We knew we had multiple fatalities.
We started seeing large pieces of houses, debris that was actually covering the road.
I could see the entire devastation where homes used to be.
The debris path was unreal.
There was just destruction everywhere.
The May 3rd tornado was probably the most devastating that I've ever seen, period.
Up next, a look at the advanced technology that will be used this severe weather season to keep you safe. Plus, pilot Jim Gardner shares his historic flights. And don't miss my tornado forecast.
Oh my gosh. There's still a lot to go in this special, but man,
It's intense.
it's very, very intense. That May 3rd stuff, man, I'll get you every single time. You're asking questions here on Facebook Live. We're getting a lot of them. Darren asked, I want to know what's the scariest storm Val and Amy have chased?
Oh, you know, without a doubt, that was the May 31st, 2013 El Reno tornado. That thing was 2.6 miles wide.
Widest on Earth.
The widest. It's a world's record.
Yeah.
And I mean, it definitely had F5 wind speeds in it. I
Right.
know it got, you know, the ratings, they went back and forth on it. But, you know, that thing, I've never seen anything that big. And it started growing. We pulled up within a quarter of a mile of it, and it started expanding and growing. And the lip of the wall cloud came right over us, and you could see it moving 120 miles an hour. And it was expanding over us, and we pretty much had to back up, you know, to stay out of that. That's the one that hit so many people.
Right,
that
so
day.
many experienced chasers. It changed
right.
direction, started moving to the southeast. As it changed direction, it sped up, doubled in speed, doubled in size. And man, a lot to learn from that storm.
Right, storm chasers were killed that day, so.
Yeah.
Terrifying storm. Terrifying for us to watch here at the studio as well. What other questions? Cassie, did you see some?
I haven't seen any new ones.
Okay.
I know someone was asking about storm shelters, above versus underground storm shelters, and we actually go over that in this special, so just wait for that. We've got 30 seconds until...
Okay, Judy's just complimenting the team and the storm tracker, saying that her husband and her have traveled over the lower 48 several times, being caught in storms and tornado warnings, and hands down, there's no comparison to the professionalism and accuracy of News 9. So thank you so much.
Thank
yes.
you.
You can't
We
get a
get
better
so much
compliment.
encouragement on Facebook.
Yes.
And oh, yeah.
Love it. All right, you guys have specific questions, let us know. Coming up, David Payne's tornado forecast, and we're going to see very cool new radar being built down at the University of Oklahoma.
Our next generation radar is still the fastest and most powerful radar in Oklahoma. I'll show you how we're going to use it, but first, OU researchers are also staying on top of their game.
The radar team there actually started building mobile radars a decade ago. Now the construction of its newest radar, Horus, the technology is so advanced it can do more than just analyze storms. Inside the Radar Innovations Lab at the University of Oklahoma, some of the brightest minds are at work.
We're trying to come up with ways to better predict tornado formations.
The lab's team of more than 100 engineers, professors, meteorologists, and students are doing just that with their mobile radars.
That's exciting. You get to actually see the storm and collect the data.
Mounted on the back of a truck, the team drives the radar into the field and sets it up ahead of the storm.
You have that reference point of seeing this beautiful thunderstorm and can relate what you see visually to what you see in the data.
They've collected data on 30 to 40 supercells and 15 to 20 tornadoes.
We had our dual polarization radar scan the storm every 20 seconds at one height, so we could see the evolution of the tornado throughout its full life cycle.
Now the team is taking the technology further with Horus, a mobile radar testbed funded in part by a $5.4 million grant by the U.S. Department of Defense.
With this technology, the antenna will remain stationary. However, it will electronically beam steer into the area of interest.
When complete, the U.S. Navy will use Horus in its many missions for public safety. In Norman, Lacey Swope, Oklahoma's own News 9.
It's a smart radar. It's a learning radar. To be able to have these products generated live with your radar is the game changer for us. This was a classic supercell with the tornado right here. And then when you go to shear rate, though, it takes out all the other colors, and all you're left with is an area of spin. You get to see wind speeds more accurately, hail sizes more accurately, snowflakes, sleet. It is still the fastest, most powerful live radar in Oklahoma. Many people often feel powerless during severe storms.
Especially children, when even rain can make them nervous or scared. But there are many ways to ease storm anxiety.
It was loud. Well, I just heard like a thump, 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 and the tornado was there.
8-year-old Broden was at church with his dad when an EF2 tornado barreled through Claremore.
I was shaking a little, but I didn't, I was like, what? What just happened?
It's been nearly 3 years since the tornado, but behind his sweet smile, there is still constant fear.
I'm really afraid, so I'm trying to get over that.
Dr. Leslie Barnes treats children with weather-related anxiety.
They can have very irrational, what we call catastrophic thoughts about things. They may think exactly what you said, that they may lose their home, they may lose family members.
Experts say having a severe weather plan at home and school and practicing it can ease a child's fears. Broden uses books to soothe his fears and encourages other kids to do the same.
They should study them more so they won't be as afraid because they would know what to do better.
Meteorologist Justin Rudisell, Oklahoma's own News 9.
Every Oklahoma needs to have a safety plan in place before severe weather begins.
And for many people, that includes having a below-ground shelter or above-ground safe room.
It was very high on my list of things to do for the safety of my pets.
Ann Carson is putting this above-ground safe room inside her bedroom.
The distance, I felt better in putting it here because this is more central.
Tornado Place Storm Shelters only installs above-ground structures.
It's a storm shelter, it's a safe room, panic room if you do have an intruder.
The reinforced structure is anchored down 4.5 inches into concrete and can be custom made to fit most spaces.
Any of the certified above-ground storm shelters that have been tested have never failed in an F4 or 5 storm.
Another option is going underground.
In my opinion, if you are capable of getting below ground, you are absolutely removing you and your family from the debris path.
Flat Safe Tornado Shelters sees an uptick in sales as spring approaches each year.
With the below ground in the garage, you have zero loss of space. They're accessible from the bumper of your car without having to back your car out of the garage.
Shelters start as low as $2,000 and can be financed for as little as $50 to $70 a month. In Oklahoma City, Matt Mahler, Oklahoma's own News 9.
Keeping students safe became a top priority across the metro after the deadly 2013 Moore tornado. The 2 destroyed schools in Moore were rebuilt to include safe rooms. Today, 31 of the district's 35 schools are now sheltered and 4 are under construction. In Edmond's 27 schools, 22 now have shelters. In El Reno, 5 of 6 schools have shelters. None of Middale's 24 schools had shelters. Now there are 5, with another 5 planned. Of Norman's 24 schools, 8 shelters are in place with another 16 planned. OKC, the largest district, has 73 schools. Now 31 have shelters. Putnam City went from 0 shelters in 27 schools to 5, with 6 more planned. In Yukon, none of its 12 schools have shelters, only the areas the district plans to fortify. If you haven't missed it, my tornado forecast is just ahead. But up next, our experienced storm trackers are used year-round. Marty Logan shares his wild wildfire story. Also, pilot Jim Gardner shares his stories from the cockpit.
We get so many questions about shelters, so that kind of breaks it down. It's really your personal preference.
Yeah.
What your needs are, what your family's needs are, above ground, below ground. People survive in both. We got a lot of questions coming in. What was the one? Oh, Anne. Anne had asked a question about tornadoes. I can't find it now, but it was, oh, there we go.
Larger.
Yeah, are tornadoes larger now than years past? Some Okies say yes. I think this really comes down to our technology that we have, and the fact that we can measure them so much more accurately now, the way that we go out and survey, the crews go out and survey the damage, and not to mention just the fact that if a storm is coming, we have trackers, we have guys and gals on it so that we know it touched down. There's not going to be one reported, one unreported, I should say. There'll be pictures of it. So that's kind of my take when I see that question. I don't think that we have necessarily larger tornadoes now.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I mean, I think over time, we've been having the same number and the same size of tornadoes. Mm-hmm. The big difference now is that, with television and with more people spotting, and you got these cameras, everybody has a camera in their hand.
Yes.
And storm trackers, more tornadoes are getting reported now. That's the thing. It looks like there's more because more are getting reported. In the old days, there was a lot of tornadoes that just went unseen.
Sure.
You
have a squall line coming through, and whenever you had the radar technology, you would see that coming through, but knowing what it was producing wasn't available.
Right.
That's right. Now we have years with more tornadoes and less tornadoes, but we've been going through those cycles forever.
Right. And we've actually been getting a lot of questions. You talk about there being so many more trackers out there, and people are wanting to know what kind of training you need to be out there. And unfortunately, you have a lot of people that don't have any training at all, and that's where you can get yourself into trouble. And we're going to talk about that when we come back, but we are joining the special here again, and we'll be here to look at your questions.
Tornado forecast. That's coming up.
News 9's Jim Gardner takes to the skies chasing storms in Bob Mill Sky News 9. His career spans over 36 years, and during that time, Jim has covered some of the most historic events in the U.S.
I just wanted to fly. There's Prince Andrew and Charlton Heston. I started doing a lot of movie stuff, like spending a whole day with Diana Ross and her kids out on a picnic, flying Jack Nicholson. When I flew Chuck Yeager, I probably could have stepped out of that helicopter and been the happiest guy in the world.
Jim Gardner is at the controls.
Eventually, they got the KCAL Channel 9 contract, and I became the morning pilot.
It started out at about 30 acres. It now is well over 100 acres.
With any breaking news, it's very fluid. Things are going to change all the time. Of course, here's the big one, the O.J. Simpson, 1994. I've covered some of the biggest events in history.
We're ready to go.
Of course, the riots, that was just one of the things that I will never forget. After the riots, the floods, the fires, the O.J. Simpson chase, I thought, man, I need to come back home where it's just a little bit calmer. Of course, then I get back here, and May 3rd, 1999 happened. If people could see what I saw from the air, you would think thousands and thousands and thousands of people would have died in that thing. Then I realized after May 3rd, 1999, that what we do is really save lives. That's what it's all about.
You see Highway 152 there on StreetScope.
StreetScope has been the biggest tool for me ever, because instantaneously we know where we're at.
Eastbound on I-240 here.
People ask, well, when are you going to retire? If you love what you do, you don't ever want to quit.
Our storm trackers not only chase severe weather, but also devastating wildfires. Last year, our Marty Logan spent most of his time on the road tracking fires and in one instance, getting just a bit too close to the flames.
There was a herd of cattle. All of a sudden, all their heads turned and looked away from me, and I looked over their heads, and that fire had crested a hill, and it was racing right at me and the cattle. It was too close. It was a long 4 or 5 days for us. I want to do everything I can to save lives and property.
Buildings on fire, south by side.
I mean, this is a personal thing because it's affecting people I know. People were listening to us and evacuating their homes. We were saying it's headed to your direction and it's racing, so people were getting out of the way.
All right, everybody, it's time for my 2019 spring weather forecast. And if you'll think back to last year, overall, severe weather, it was less than average last year. Our wildfire season was pretty big, especially last April. And boy, that was not any fun at all. Last year at this time, the drought was raging across Oklahoma. Big time drought going on last year. This year, some areas in the west, they are dry, and a couple of pockets of drought showing up in the west and the southwest. But overall, drought-free nearly across Oklahoma. All right, and also this year, though, we're talking about this. Right now, the Gulf of Mexico, ocean temperatures, they're pretty warm. They're above average. That's going to be warm, moist air will be coming north as we get into spring, and that will play a key role in these storm systems as they move into Oklahoma. Also, another component to our spring severe weather season, the Modoki El Nino, which is in the central Pacific Ocean down here. Water temperatures are above average, and this will stay like this going into spring, and that's going to keep that southern branch of the jet stream very active across the southern plains and the southern U.S. So what does that mean for us as far as precipitation goes, or rainfall in spring? We think it's going to be wet, above average rainfall. Southern Kansas, Oklahoma, down into Texas, points to the west, and then also to our southeast. Temperatures right now, looks like it will be near or slightly below average from I-35 westward, above average elsewhere, so a little bit cooler for most of us. And overall, I think it will be an active spring for the southern plains, especially April and May. For Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, more active this year than what it was last year or the year before. To sum it up for you here, a delayed start to the spring season. I think our severe weather really ramps up into April and May, okay? The drought stays away. I don't see the drought coming back into Oklahoma this spring at all. A wetter and cooler spring ahead. A very slow fire season coming up. Some great news there. So, what about the tornado count? Well, I think we will have above average tornadoes, slightly above average tornado numbers for the spring months coming up. That will be for, again, mainly April and May and the 1st of June, and above average for possibly some strong tornadoes as well. We'll be watching that. We are ready, and the News 9 weather team is ready as well. As always, stay with us whenever you're away from your home by using your News 9 app, or just go to news9.com/connect. Thanks for being with us tonight. We hope you feel more prepared as we head into the upcoming storm season. And as always, stay with News 9. We'll keep you advised.
Ahead of the Storm has been presented by VW of Edmond.
So there you have it. David explained a more active spring is where we're headed.
Yeah. And it was so exciting to see all the storm trackers out there. And I mentioned, if you were joining us before the commercial, or before the actual special during the commercial, we were talking about people love seeing our storm trackers, and they find it so fascinating, and they want to do the same thing a lot of times. And that's where we kind of run into some problems. There's definitely some issues with that. They wanted to know what kind of training that it involves, and there's really no textbook answer for that. Can you give us some insight into that?
Yeah, I mean, some of our trackers have degrees, in meteorology degrees, including myself, from University of Oklahoma, but they don't teach us how to chase storms there.
Right. Yeah.
The only way to really learn how to chase storms is actually to do it. And so we notice that we learn more and more every year that we're out here chasing. And so, it's kind of a catch-22 because it's dangerous to start out.
Right.
The only way to really learn it is to chase, but it's dangerous to do that. So, You know, that's how you learn, is just do it. That's how we get experience. There's no real training course that we go to. It's just
yeah, there's not a chasing university. There's nothing
exactly.
like that that you can go to and get your degree in chasing and, you know, get hired by a television station. In Oklahoma, you have to have experience with Oklahoma weather as well, because that's a different ballgame.
Right,
Absolutely.
but, yeah, and let me just say one thing too, that's not a license out there for everybody to go chase.
No,
really.
exactly.
Right. Yes.
Because
You don't
it
have
is
Val stamp approval.
very dangerous. So, you know, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, it's very dangerous, and you guys have been doing it for so long. It's so interesting to be sitting here in the studio. Cassie and I, we've got, you can't see it, but we've got up there microphones that we have right here, the Gettner, that we can pot up and we can listen to. And I mean, from the second the first little parcel of air starts to rise and condense and the cloud starts to form, they tell us exactly what they're seeing. Once it starts to get any rotation, it's fascinating to hear. So you guys know exactly what you're looking at, which is key.
Well, we love being in the field. It's awesome to be out and see Oklahoma and drive the country roads, and that's that's one of the reasons we love it so much.
We always joke around that whenever they're out chasing, all of our trackers are this way too. They know those back roads like the back of their hand, and so they'll spout off some county road. Now we're passing this corner by this mart, and I've had ribs at that gas station, and then the trackers will start talking, and oh, you can get a good hot dog at this one, and
yeah.
When the storms aren't crazy, ahead of the storm anyway.
And sometimes I'm definitely one of those people where I love watching them storm chasing. I find it so fascinating, and I would love to get out there and do it, but there's no way in the entire world that I would ever go do it on my own. I just don't have the experience of storm chasing. I only ever went once, and the one time that I did go, it was with two other storm trackers. This was several years ago before I came to Oklahoma, and they had a lot of experience, but I would never have gone by myself, and I still would never do that. But we've talked about the opportunity. Maybe if it were quiet in Oklahoma and there were storms maybe in Texas or Kansas, that maybe I could join you guys.
You're going with us.
I would love to. That's been the promise, but it hasn't happened yet.
We're taking Cassie chasing.
We will get video of this.
It'd be a dream.
We get this question every single time we talk severe weather, because we just talk about the terminology because we're so used to it. The Gettner. We talk about the Gettner.
Yeah, that's always a big
What
question.
is the Gettner? So the Gettner is simply a phone system, the way that we get the guys and gals on air. So they have a phone number, they call into it, and us, along with the audio booth, we don't actually have any control over it, Cassie and I don't, and the rest of the team. But basically, and Justin Rudisell, he mans the Gettner, and so he can put them on air, he can turn them up, turn them down, and they can hear each other, and we can talk to them. It's a communication system, basically.
You know, people say, you know, get Val on the Gettner. I've actually had somebody say, thought my last name was on Gettner.
Awesome, Val on Gettner.
Yeah. So I mean, that all that is just like you said. It's the phone system that lets us get on there.
Oh, and it's fantastic. We can talk to one another and hear what's going on in other parts of the state, and it helps so much.
Yeah, everyone's kind of on the same page. And the Tulsa Mets can call into it. Our sister station, the trackers can call into it, and so we kind of it's a hub for everyone. Did you see another one? There's so many questions. It's just hard to get to them.
A lot of good questions.
Yeah.
Keep them coming.
Let's see. Linda says, an active storm season. Thankfully, we have you all to watch. Well, thanks for watching.
I saw someone mention something about storm spotting, and there are storm spotting classes that the National Weather Service does put on, and I know they have several dates on their website, so you'd have to check the National Weather Service website or just contact them. They have a phone number. If you just go to weather.gov and find the Norman site there, they'll have all that information, and you can actually, they do it all across the state. They have several storm spotting classes. You're not chasing, you're spotting them. So
good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, we get that question a lot about what is the difference in a spotter and a chaser.
Yeah.
And it's two different things, really.
Yeah.
A spotter stays in one spot, basically,
Right.
and reports what comes over him, where a chaser actively goes out like us and follows the storm and stays with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In position before it even starts to form. As far as the forecast goes for the for the spring season and a more active season. We've kind of already seen a precursor for that. We had moisture return. Some of the things we look at, David was talking about the warm Gulf of Mexico waters, and that's key. Once we start to get a south or a southeast wind, it helps pull that moisture over Oklahoma. We had so many rounds of Arctic air where our dew points were knocked down 10, 20 degrees below zero, but it returned quickly once we got a southeast breeze. So that'll be key too. Sometimes it takes us later in the season before we can get some of that warm, moist air up over the state to give us more of a severe threat. That will be a key factor coming up, and David had mentioned that as well. Darren. Hi, Darren.
Someone's asking, what is the one thing that Val and Amy are excited about on their storm
Oh,
chasing
the new truck.
Yeah.
The one thing. Yes, the one thing. Just one.
You know, okay, so we did a major improvement in my mind, and we put a solid axle on the front of it. That was a big undertaking. The suspension, that was there. I know it's not like crazy thrilling stuff, but it's just a lot stronger. The kind of driving that we do on the dirt roads and stuff. I was
washboard in Oklahoma.
Yeah, I was bending parts and wearing out parts right and left, and I'm hope with a stronger axle that I won't have to do that so much.
I would definitely say my favorite part is the anemometer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we've used one in the past, but we always had the problem with hail breaking it apart. And so now we're going to be able to have one. It's a lot better, and just to be able to give people a better idea of what the wind speeds are. I mean, through the years, Val has been so good at just being able to estimate the wind just by sight.
That blows my mind, by the way. No pun intended. But
it blows your mind.
It does.
But it's great to have a reading that you can rely on. So I'm excited about that.
And, you know, I think that, I try not to be too outrageous when I estimate the winds, and so sometimes I think I might estimate on the low side.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of times that we get winds that might be way crazier than, what we even estimate.
Sure.
So, like 90. I mean, we've had one time, one of the first times she went with me, we measured 105 miles an hour.
Goodness.
Wind. That was on the Lake Hefner tornado back in 98, I believe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy wind. They've seen it all, been through it all. Favorite electronic on your truck? Amy, the anemometer?
Yeah, obviously the camera is probably one of our most valuable tools, just to be able to record and capture video of the storms, and they're just so amazing to watch. So that's really great, but also the technology to be able to broadcast what we're seeing
Facebook
through the DeGero, and being able to, for you guys here at the station, to see exactly what we're seeing live. I remember years ago when we first started chasing together, that was like our dream.
Yeah.
What if they could just see what we're seeing right now?
We would have given anything to be able to send back a live stream, but now it's just, just so good.
It is. Yeah.
Just in the years of my career, how crazy the technology and the advancements. It's unbelievable.
It
like,
is.
like you said, to be able to see exactly what they're seeing when they're seeing it. So many good questions coming in. Really quick, Michael Tillman is asking a question about an app that shows the joules of energy. Michael must be a little bit of a weather nerd. We love Michael. I think you're talking about the convective available potential energy. So it's something we do look at as far as fuel for thunderstorms. I don't know of an actual app that has that on there, but all Model Data does it. Model Data in the United States is free, so there's tons of different websites you could go to. Michael, we can shoot you a link here in just a second.
Somebody was asking a question about nighttime tornado chasing also. I mean, you talk about dangerous, that kind of steps it up to a whole nother level. I mean,
we definitely change our strategy at night.
Exactly, but we do, a lot of the chasers that don't chase, out there chasing on their own, they go home when it gets dark.
Sure.
But when it gets dark, we got to stay out there because the safety of our viewers depends on it. And so at nighttime, we do a little bit different strategy. We try to stay behind the tornado and let the lightning from the core of the storm illuminate the tornado. But we've been in some pretty crazy situations after dark before, too. Almost got hit a few times.
Absolutely. And now we have a camera that is on top of our truck that has night vision, and we've been able to see tornadoes in the dark that we couldn't even see with our eyes. So that's been just a really great tool.
Yeah, the technology that the trackers have on our entire team is going to help a lot heading into spring. That's for sure. You're going to see some stuff you've never seen before. Carrie just has a really sweet comment about Jim Gardner. Had no idea his career and adventures prior to News 9 were like that. So what an awesome guy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, if you ever have a chance to sit down with Jim Gardner, the stories that guy can tell.
I didn't know he was in the OJ chase.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes, he was. Sue says you like that big diesel engine, Val.
I love it. You know, oh man, the diesel engine, you know, people don't realize it, but when we get out there chasing storms, a lot of times we're against a 40-mile-an-hour wind, and you got to have an engine with the torque, you know, to push you through that kind of stuff. So it makes it a lot easier for us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very important. Definitely key. Kathy, did you see another one?
I saw something. It was, your team is so solid. What kinds of things do you do to stay in sync with each other? I think that's a really cool question. A lot of people don't know this. But we have a text thread.
Yeah.
That's one thing. We're constantly, the whole weather team.
I can look right now. I can guarantee you there are texts on our weather thread.
Probably. And so we're just always texting
17
each other.
of them to be exact.
Really? You know,
well, some of them's dinner pictures.
Dinner pictures. And that's the thing, is we're all actually really good friends. And, you know, David's on vacation right now, and he's going to send us all kinds of vacation pictures. And we talk about the weather all the time. We talk about everything that's going on at the station, and we also talk about home life, and because it's friends and work.
Right.
So we're always in connection with each other.
And I don't know if everybody realizes this at home, but I mean, everybody up here, you, and you got Justin and Matt and David, and everybody has their jobs back here. I mean, you know, it looks like it goes so smooth, and it ends up, the final product ends up being smooth, but we got people telling us, you know, giving us constant updates as to what's going on and advice on, you know, what this storm looks like it's doing. And so it's a well-oiled machine is what it really is. There's a lot that goes into it, and the final product just looks so smooth and easy, but there's a whole lot of work that goes into it.
And that's just the weather team. That's not the crew behind the scenes either. So it's kind of a whole station coordination. That's what's so cool about working at News 9. I mean, because I've worked at different stations as well across the country. And I mean, the fact, like Cassie said, the fact that you really are like family. So you're on the phone all the time. You already know what the person's thinking. We all know each other's personalities. And so when it comes to severe weather and when it's time to really get serious, I know her needs, she knows mine, we know David's, he may have a few more. we know how we all work together, and so we're all kind of on the same page, and I'm glad that comes across because I feel like that's the case.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot when people ask, you know, how can a husband and wife work together? But just knowing, but knowing each other's needs and just knowing.
I know what she's thinking half the time. And,
that's right. Yeah.
And she is an excellent spotter. I mean, I'm driving. I can't always look.
It's out your window, Val.
She'll say, Val, look over here. Okay, just go. You can beat it. You can beat it.
But you have to say, hands down, I mean, our entire team strives for excellence, and each and every individual has their own role. And it's clear that, you know, we're superior in what we do because we strive for excellence.
Yeah. And just the experience that comes together too, and we're always learning from each other.
We're going to jump off here in about a few minutes, so it's 7:45.
Okay.
You guys have any other last questions?
Do you guys? Angie asked, you guys in Oklahoma City and Tulsa work together? Is it more separate? We work very closely with our sister station in Tulsa. I worked there for a year. So we do. We work very closely, and we were talking about that just a little bit earlier. We will coordinate with the trackers because the storms typically, on average, will start here and then move into the green country. So we'll take it. Trackers will kind of hand it off to their trackers. And if it's a big day over there and not here, our trackers go over there. So, yeah, we work very closely together. And two helicopters. John's like, don't forget.
We were talking about the Gettner earlier. It's funny. We can actually communicate with the News on 6 weather team through basically the Gettner here. And like when Lacey was gone and when she was in Tulsa, sometimes just to mess with her, I would get on there and be like, hey, Lacey, what are you doing? What are you doing? And she'd be in Tulsa and I'd be in Oklahoma City, and we would communicate during severe weather as well that way.
You can't see this. I'm just going to see they're there. Hey, Channel 6. It's 9. We're on Facebook Live. Are you guys? We'll see if they're paying attention. If they can hear us. It's that simple, though.
Yeah.
And yes, she would. Cassie would get on there and do that a lot.
Lacey, what are you doing?
Oh, man. Are dirt roads flooding a big issue for you guys?
Sometimes, oh yeah. You know, you talked about the miles we drive every year. About half of those 50,000 miles are on dirt roads. The storm doesn't follow paved roads.
Right. And oftentimes we run into damaged paths, and so there's times when we'll come across damage and have to backtrack, and
there's
it
times
can
we
be a
just
challenge.
blast right through it too.
Yeah, there are.
Bridges out. I mean, that's a common thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll constantly hear, okay, we're at a bridge out, and then Justin Rudisell, he's kind of helping navigate the trackers, and he'll say, okay, next road over, here, take this one. Turn left here.
1 minute.
1 minute. Let's see, there's so many questions. Stress is on. On the oil field. Yeah, there's been some flooding already. I can't see any more specific questions. I think we kind of summed up the vast majority
Did you
of
say
that.
something about an oil field?
Yes, in the oil field, the Southwest
Lightning.
Mustang.
Get off that rig when it starts lightning.
Oh my gosh. We have so many threats.
Oh.
So many threats with thunderstorms. But the good thing is, I think that we've got the technology and the crew and the team set and ready to go. So
Yep.
we're prepared. Hopefully the special helped you prepare, helped to relieve some of that anxiety, that if you have a safe place, you know exactly where to go, you're going to be just fine. It's all about being prepared. So
just have a plan.
And we're here 24 hours a day. There's someone here all the time watching. If not just one person, it's the entire team.
For sure.
Is that it?
Sometimes even at 2 in the morning.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. If you guys have any
1
other
in the morning.
questions, feel free to leave them here, and hopefully I can get to you a little bit later.
Thanks for joining us. It's been
Yeah.
fun.
Bye, guys.